We're joined today by Corey O'Connor, incoming mayor of Pittsburgh. You'll be sworn in on January 5th. What do you hope to accomplish as mayor?
Oh, well, thanks for having me again. I hope to accomplish, there's a lot. There's a lot of work to do. First of all, it's getting our finances straightened out, being more transparent with the Pittsburghers on where we sit financially. But then also finally having a conversation about growth and opportunity in our city and coming to the table with a whole new plan on that and opportunities for everybody to grow. And we are finally doing something a little different. We have a development officer and we have an economic development officer. And that's never really been separated in Pittsburgh. And that means, obviously somebody's going to look at bricks and mortars and housing and development in neighborhoods. But then we also need to talk about how we attract companies so that Pittsburghers have opportunity to grow, to create their own wealth. And we've never really had that kind of strategy before when it comes to those two things. So those are very important. Obviously, the number one priority was finding a public safety director and a chief of police. We've already named the people that we're going to nominate, just because coming in, it's been questionable as to who's running public safety here over the last couple of years. So I think people want to know that these were our priorities and we're doing them right away.
How will your past experience both on city council and as city controller help you as you lay out your agenda for the city?
I think it's very helpful. I think, working with council colleagues that I had worked with in the past, knowing what each and every one of them in their neighborhoods needed at the time and hearing from them directly, but understanding that the council and the mayor have to be working together in order to get a lot of this stuff done. So I think that's very, very helpful. I also think it's helpful to see it from a council perspective and moving on to the changes that we want to make when it comes to, streamlining permits, making sure the snow gets plowed on time, very things like that are detail oriented, but we see them especially when you're a city council person. And I also think coming from the county controller's perspective, understanding, the budget and financing and where we could work with our city controller to try to cut some costs there is going to benefit all of us.
Tell us a little more about some of the staff that you're bringing on board to help support your agenda.
Yeah, so I'm bringing back a former chief of staff, Dan Gilman, who was under Mayor Peduto, but he and I were council colleagues, somebody that, understands the daily operations, which I think is very helpful. Also bringing somebody on that was the operations director under Eric Holder in the Obama administration. We're actually probably going to announce a couple more people in the next couple days that have DC ties but are local. And I think that's really important to make sure that things get done. And I think that's the type of people that we want to hire, individuals that are focusing on things getting done at every level of government. And we've lacked that for a very long time here.
Both just a moment ago and on your website, you talk a lot about bringing transparency to the city. Why is that such a priority?
It's a priority because right now, if you look at our financing, there were a lot of fluffy numbers over the last few years. And when you put out a 5-year budget that has gaps in it all the way, and, we're looking at roughly a $35 million structural deficit, that doesn't fly. And I think people of Pittsburgh need to know where their money's being spent, but then also, what our financial outlook looks like. And I think the last couple of years were very political budgets. And I think having, been a controller for the last few years gives me the ability to come in, open up the books. Again, being transparent with council and the city controller goes a very long way in doing those things.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you will approach the city's budget differently than perhaps the past administration?
Yeah, I think it's looking at where you have to make cuts. But also, if you're talking about growth and opportunity, making sure that money is not being spent on study after study, but actually going into the neighborhoods. And we saw that, our COVID relief money was spent on hiring people. And other cities were leveling out sites, making them shovel ready for new housing to be developed. And we didn't do that. So we really have to start planning a city of the future where any capital dollars we have to go into a growth model. And we did not do that for a very, very long time.
The city is known for its large nonprofits, often referred to as its eds and meds. How do you encourage these large nonprofits to pay into city services?
I think, again, it goes back to being specific with an ask and also specific with their mission. Whether you're a university or a hospital, for us, public safety is number one, and your mission is to save lives as well. So, how do we purchase ambulances or equipment for fire or police that you're willing to participate in? Even rec centers, when you look at, not only the hospitals but the universities as well. A lot of their students do a lot of recreation in our city. So, any kind of contribution like that for a community benefits agreement will go a long way in saving city taxpayers money, but also within their mission, you can see where your dollars are going. I don't want their money to come in to fill a budget gap. That's not what it should be. This money should be part of the community, and people should see that they're getting a benefit from these purchases.
The NFL draft comes to Pittsburgh this coming spring. What message do you want to deliver as the nation's eyes are on Pittsburgh?
It's great. I mean, I think we're going to have 50 million people watching Pittsburgh those days, and it's a way to tell the story. Tell the story about how there's growth and opportunity in Pittsburgh, how you can raise a family in Pittsburgh, and the uniqueness of our communities. And I think that has to be our sell. We can't, talk about, obviously it's a sporting event, I understand that, but it can't be about, Super Bowl titles that we won over the decades. It's got to be about what Pittsburgh is today, our arts, our culture, our diverse neighborhoods, how even people in Pittsburgh might not be aware of some opportunities here, but you're going to tune in and watch the draft. So I think that's really important to the viewing audience. But then when you get to the couple 100,000 people they're going to visit, let's make sure it's clean, it's safe, the details are taken care of. So when you're coming from Denver or somewhere else, you say, oh, I actually like Pittsburgh. I've never been here before. So it's a great way for us to sell the uniqueness of our great city.
Talk a little bit more about what you can do as mayor to attract new jobs and businesses to the city.
Yeah, so we obviously have a lot of great companies that are here. Even small businesses and startups and young entrepreneurs that just have never been given a chance or given a call from a mayor's office. So our goal is each week calling 10 local companies about how to expand, or just even say thank you for opening a pizza shop in Pittsburgh. How's it going? And then do 10 national companies, because I believe, if we are aggressive in courting people to Pittsburgh, once we get you here, people are shocked and they love our city. And I think they have something in their minds about Pittsburgh that's not true. And I think that's going to be our big push, is companies that are looking for expanded sites, and whether it's in tech or whatever it might be, robotics, we, on every matrix, we compete with almost every other city. So how do we get you here first? And that's the job of the mayor, to be very aggressive in making calls like that. And are we going to get some? Hopefully. Are some people going to say, oh, I'm fine where I am and hang up? Also fine. But they need to know that the mayor of Pittsburgh's out there making those calls.
As data centers continue to expand and grow in Western Pennsylvania, what can be done to make sure that the expansion of this industry benefits not only the private investors, but also the city as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, where we are within the city, I don't think we'll see any centers itself. And, obviously there's discussions about the power that's being used on the sites and all of that stuff. But we know that there's $98 billion being spent in the state. So how do we capitalize when a company locates, maybe it's an hour away, can you have a headquarters? Can you have something within downtown for your officers, whatever it might be? So I think that's kind of where Pittsburgh plays a role there. But also look at the talent that we have with our universities. AI basically started at CMU. So for us, it's talking about the talent that we have here. So if you are a new robotics company and you're looking to locate anywhere in the country, well, Pittsburgh can provide you with the talent that you need to make your company succeed.
The lack of affordable housing has been an ongoing issue throughout the campaign. What will you do to address housing in the city?
Yeah, I think it's very important that we do. And we need housing of all types. But especially we have to have a growth mentality when it comes to affordable housing. And that's why I talk about, going into neighborhoods and rehabbing them, looking at a main and main strategy that housing is part of a hub around small business districts, and allowing density in areas where we have bus stops so that you can build quicker, but also allow density so people live by mass transit. And then also looking at the vacant lots that we own. We need to invest capital so that those are shovel ready, so that we can not just do 4 or 5 units at once, but we have to go to scale to where it's 50, 75, possibly scattered site units, because it lowers the cost to build, but then it also lowers the cost to buy. And I think when it comes to affordable housing or workforce housing, we have to really focus on how we get people to have home ownership, because that's the best way best way to create generational wealth. And that's something that we really look forward to doing. And my time on council, we built affordable housing units in an area nobody thought could be done, and it was done. And we also voted to start the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So we have a lot of tools right now in the toolbox, but we have to use them strategically to help create benefits for communities, create new housing for residents, but also empower the neighborhoods as well.
A moment ago, you referenced your desire to fix the city's zoning and permitting processes. How do you expedite this system?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy. Right now, we know people, and it's not just developers or people that want to rehab buildings downtown that struggle. It's your local stores, it's your local residents who want a permit, and it takes way too long. So I think, coming right in and doing a detailed analysis in the first month and not wasting any time after that to see where the gaps are in services and why it's taking so long to get a permit in Pittsburgh. If New York City can somehow do it in 4 or 5 weeks, why are we 10 to 12? Like, we have to streamline that process. And by the time you get to a permit, you've already gone through planning and zoning if you're doing something out of the ordinary. So that's not the concern. It's, why can I not get an electrical permit on time? So, other communities have done, maybe a third party architect, engineer stamps off on the project, depending on what it is. And it's to benefit more residents than actual developers, because the residents who want to do this, or community organizations that want to build, their costs go up and they can't afford a project now. But a developer, if they have to sit for a couple weeks, they have the money to do it. I'm looking after, the local community organizations that need those permits to go fast, so their costs are cut.
Your website talks a little bit about the need for childcare. Could you talk a little bit about how childcare fits into your plan to grow the city?
Yeah, I mean, I think our mission is to get to people early and say Pittsburgh should be every family's first choice. And having a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, I know the challenges of childcare, and it's not affordable in a lot of cases. So how do we expand sites? How do we invest in our own rec centers to help parents out so that there's a place for their kid to go, maybe before school and after school? And what do those programs look like at our own rec centers? And starting to reimagine the space that the city can control to help families. And I think that's got to be a key for us to help grow the city. Have to start talking about how families are a part of it and why you should raise your kids in Pittsburgh.
What other areas need support to encourage long-term residency in Pittsburgh?
Well, I mean, I think it also comes down to, when companies locate here, making sure that local people are hired. When projects are done, locals have a chance to get involved in those companies. And we have to do a better job of telling the story to our residents about what is actually available for them. We have some companies that, you don't need a college degree. Some you don't even need a GED to work there, and they have a couple of hundred spots available. We have to make sure that our residents take advantage of all the opportunity that currently exists. And then when something new comes along, making sure that they're aware of those opportunities as well.
How do you encourage young people to stay in the city, particularly right after they finish their education?
I say that, look, we have a lot more to offer. And I'm actually speaking at Duquesne University tomorrow, actually. And I think it's telling the story that if you're a student, Pittsburgh's obviously shaped your life because you went to school here. Now, you know our city very well. You've had a great experience, hopefully, at whatever university you went to. So why not be part of a new revolution in Pittsburgh and raise your family here? Invest in one of our communities. Look for opportunities in the city where you got your education in. And I think that's something that we have a unique ability to do. And also, it's funny. Everybody goes to a city like New York or Chicago, and they're willing to walk 10 or 12 blocks. And here I can't get you to walk 3. But Pittsburgh is actually a walking community. And that's why focusing on trails and biking and, our rec centers makes it more of an oriented connectivity that young people are interested in right now. And we have culture, we have nightlife, let's just expand those and tell that story to young people interested in moving or staying in Pittsburgh.
The prior administration was criticized for instability within city police leadership. What will you do differently to address public safety?
I think we did right away. We said we were going to hire a full-time chief. We have somebody we're going to nominate day one, as well as public safety director. We were not wasting any time. I think after we won the general election, we picked somebody that had left Pittsburgh but served here for 20 years, and we made that clear that we are going to, stick by our nominee and make sure that it was somebody that understood our city. We didn't want to spend taxpayer money on a national search when the right person was a Pittsburgher the whole time. And they know Pittsburgh. They can come in right away, both of them, public safety as well as chief of police, and hopefully turn the morale around, but also continue to work on community policing and community relations. And that's who we were looking for, somebody that had a background in that.
What more should viewers know about Jason Lando, who was nominated as the city's police chief?
That he served 20 years here. I've known him for a very long time. Grew up in Pittsburgh, but was very community oriented when he was a commander here. Went to Frederick, Maryland, was a chief there, got the experience of being an executive, and I think those things go a very long way. I already know he's been meeting with community leaders. He's been going to community meetings, and I think that's the kind of chief of police you want. Somebody that's going to be out in the forefront, talking to neighbors, seeing what their concerns are, but having an agenda that connects the police with the community. That's something that we have to focus on. And it's somebody that cares about Pittsburgh. Not that the other ones didn't, but when you're a part-timer and you're doing other things on the side, you're not focused on the people of this city and making sure that they're safe.
Jason Lando was linked to a criminal investigation at his prior job. Does knowledge of this investigation cause you any concern or doubt in his nomination as police chief?
No, we knew that there was an investigation. We know that the Maryland State, I think it was the sheriff's office, said that he was not guilty of any wrongdoing or any criminal activity. And look, does he regret doing it? I can't speak for him, but I'm sure it was a moment where he would go back and say, I shouldn't have done that. But I also look at it and say that's an incident in Frederick. I can't get into the specifics of it because I don't know the details of it, but just his relationship here with the officers who he's going to be leading. Everywhere I go and I see an officer, they're so thankful that we brought him back. And I think that's what we needed in Pittsburgh, somebody that was an officer, somebody that's committed to Pittsburgh. And that's why we're staying with Jason. And, we hope the council we're going to nominate him. We hope the council approves.
What will your administration do to expand staffing both for police as well as EMS?
Yeah, I mean, EMS, we have to definitely look at the equipment. Their equipment breaks down to and from calls, and we have to look at a way to invest in that capital. But I also think, we have to do a better job of recruiting for our officers, why they should be in Pittsburgh, and getting them the support that they need. We always forget about the officers and their mental health as well. So looking at a model where our officers get the support that they deserve and, try to look at, what our numbers are now and how they're stretched very thin, how we can allow them some extra time home with the family. I mean, it's a very stressful job, and any, mental health support we can give to our officers is going to go a long way too.
Under the Trump administration, there's been significant changes in federal immigration policy over the last year or so. How will you respond to federal efforts to deport undocumented immigrants?
We will not partner with ICE or organizations like that. I mean, Pittsburgh is a welcoming city. We want you to come to Pittsburgh. In fact, last year there were 40 immigrant companies that relocated here or started here. And I think that's the Pittsburgh story. We've always been a melting pot. It's what makes our neighborhoods unique. It's what makes our people unique. We all came from somewhere to get here. And I think having that mindset that we are welcoming will only help us grow our region even more. And I think that's what we're going to do if we have to stand up and fight. We have done it already publicly, but that's something we will not partner with.
Talk a little bit about the importance of working not only with city entities, but also state and federal to achieve your goals for the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we have to be on the same page. We have to put projects out there that again, the state can come and support as well as the federal government. And it's a lot to do with infrastructure. We are, the city of bridges, and we have a lot in bad shape. So we have to do a better job of streamlining that process so that we don't just do one bridge at a time, but a couple are in the works before one is even completed. So I think partnering with state and federal officials is going to be very, very helpful there. And also bridging gap in funding. I mean, we have a lot of great projects that are underway, but we do need the partnership with PennDOT when it comes to a road or a curb cut. We also need the partnership when it comes to RCAPs and other funding that's available at the state to bridge those gaps so that projects happen and happen quickly.
What does it mean to you personally stepping into the role that was once held by your father?
I think about it a lot, but I really think the day of is going to hit me pretty hard, just because it was his lifelong dream to do it, and for him to look back and say, "Oh, my son got to do it," would be kind of unique. So I think there's obviously an additional pressure on that, but I tell everybody, look, I'm not him. I said I can't compete with him, so don't try to have me compete with him. But I think it'll be a good family moment, and then if he were here, I'm sure he'd tell me, okay, get to work. You got a lot to do. So it's special, and I think we're definitely going to embrace it at the inauguration.
We've been speaking with Corey O'Connor, incoming mayor of Pittsburgh. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Take care.